First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. I recently did a State of the City address, and talking with Cindy, one of the comments I made really struck home with her, but I really believe it, that I think one of the things that sets Casa Grande apart from a lot of the other communities in Arizona is that, we have the ability and the history that when we have a problem in our community, we identify what the problem is, and we try to take care of the problem ourselves. We don't look for some outside agency to come in and help. And certainly the Casa Grande Alliance has been the poster child for that over the last 10 or 15 years. And I think that the program tonight is really timely. We're going into prom season for a lot of the high schools, graduation season. And it's all about choices you make. And certainly, in my life, I've made good ones and bad ones, but you can make some really tragically bad mistakes and decisions at this stage of your life that'll haunt you from now on. And I think, while I haven't heard the panel, I suspect that's the message they're going to give you. And it is so important right now. Those of you that are juniors and seniors in high school, you have your whole future ahead of you, and make smart decisions. And again, the temptations right now are really out there. So I think if Augustine looks like he's about ready, I promised that I wouldn't talk too long. So welcome, enjoy the program. Thank you, Cindy, for putting it on. And I hope you all think before you take actions over the next couple of months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. What I'd like to do is introduce the panel. They're going to give about a 10-minute presentation each. Once I've introduced them, we're going to show you a short video, which is very much dead on point as to the messages that we're trying to get across here this evening. And then what our goal is to create an interactive process by having you get involved and ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a question that shouldn't be asked. If you have a question in your mind after you've heard these people speak, we want you to get it out there. And we want this to be interactive. We don't want everybody to just sit on their hands and then go home and say, gee, I wish I would have asked this, or I wish I would have asked that. So as you're listening to the speakers, please keep that in mind and jump up and ask questions. We'll be working through the audience with a microphone. Our panel this evening, it consists of Cindy Shader. She is the Executive Director of the Casa Grande Alliance. Seated to her left is Officer Thomas Anderson of the Casa Grande Police Department. I'd list all of the multitasking things that he does, but we're limiting ourselves a little bit on time. So he does a bunch of jobs over there. Next is Judge Judy Ferguson of the Casa Grande Municipal Court. And seated next to her is Jeannie Robinson, a mom from Gilbert. Okay, so we're going to watch the video.
If you parents want to stop underage drinking, you guys got to take away the alcohol. I was 13, 14 of that age. I started drinking before school.
In working very close with the schools, what we do know is that youth are either transferring liquor into water bottles, that they're hiding it in their backpacks, that they're hiding it in their rooms, and that the access and the drinking is happening when parents aren't around.
Actually, I don't know if their parents think they're doing it. I would think that they'd be blind if they didn't know their kids were drinking, especially since it's posted all over Facebook and MySpace.
Drinking pretty much ruined my life.
Research shows us that parents that enable young people to drink within their home, they're going to also go outside the home and consume alcohol.
They get the alcohol from older siblings, they will get it from older friends, and pretty much if their parents leave any at the house.
Definitely have to cut it off at the source. If they have access to it and they're allowed to drink and they're told that it's okay, it just increases that number of teenage alcoholics.
You could take the best kid, and when there's alcohol in a party environment, they have the opportunity to make a poor decision.
I was 12 years old when my sister was killed in a car accident due to drunk drivers.
The girls had a fake ID and went to a liquor store and bought the alcohol and consumed it on the river. All the girls that she went to the river with that day were all under the age of 18.
It was later in the afternoon and we were getting ready for a party, and my sister's friends came knocking on the door saying that my sister was killed in a car accident, and 4 hours later my mom got the call, and I'll never forget the look on her face when she got that call.
When kids drink alcohol, it's not only dangerous to them, it's dangerous to the police officers who come to speak with them, it's dangerous to the neighbors where the parties are at, and it's dangerous for the motorists on the roads where the kids are driving after they've been at the parties.
But it's these choices that these children make, and especially their peers. It's a lot of peer pressure and easy access to the alcohol.
Young people engaging in underage drinking and the risk factors associated with it greatly increase, from sexual abuse, impaired driving issues, violence, etc. Just the risk factors dramatically increase with every sip of alcohol.
Alcohol use in adolescence is a very high risk for permanent changes to the brain, for brain injury, directly or indirectly, as well as chronic changes to the brain.
As parts of your brain go to sleep, they're lacking oxygen. When you don't have oxygen, you're killing brain cells. And as you kill brain cells, it can affect your speech, your ability to walk, just all the things you do. There's a very primitive part of our brain that's right above the brain stem. And this is the part of the brain that controls our reflexes. And included in that is your heartbeat and your breathing. And as the effects of the alcohol move through the brain, it gradually puts that part of your brain to sleep. When that happens, you die.
When you talk to them about alcohol, typically they kind of dismiss it. Well, everybody drinks, so let's talk about what's really killing our youth. And fact of the matter is alcohol is what's killing all of our youth, more so than every single drug combined. Secondly, if you think that taking their keys and allowing them to drink within your own home, and then it's not going to happen when you're not there, you're only mistaking yourself. We see it all the time, and unfortunately, it takes a tragedy before communities and parents start caring about the issue.
Social host ordinance is a critical component to stopping access and underage drinking.
It's not about harassing the kids, it's about addressing the enablers, which are the adults hosting these parties.
The parents could have stopped it that day.
Okay, Cindy Shader, Executive Director of the Casa Grande Alliance, please.
Thank you, Bill. I'm going to start with a few statistics. In Casa Grande, our kids start drinking more than just a sip around age 13. And serious drinking at about 13 and a half. More than a third of our students admit to drinking in the last 30 days. I got to put those back on. I'll never see this. We do a survey every 2 years called the Arizona Youth Survey, and it was actually completed in a couple of the high schools recently. but a third of our students admit to drinking in the last 30 days. Now that's about, that's a decrease from 2004, but that's still a lot of kids. A third of our students, that's 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students, admit to drinking in the last month. 61% of our kids say their peers would not think it is wrong or a really big deal if someone their age drank beer, wine, or liquor regularly. And what's really alarming to me is that about 80% of students say their parents would not think it was wrong if their teenager drank beer, wine, or liquor regularly. So we have this value going on in our community that neither kids nor parents think drinking before the age of 21 is any big deal. And that's pretty alarming because there's new research out there that shows that underage drinking damages your brain. You heard it on the video. And Bill, I have to stand up because I can't do this sitting down. I hope that's okay with you. Thank you, Thomas. Don't break it. When your parents were growing up, when old ladies like me were growing up, we thought that it was just a rite of passage. That you get to a certain age and everybody sneaks a sip of beer, and then you sneak a few more sips of beer, and then by the time you get a certain age, you know, you got to get drunk once. And there's some parents even believe that if you let your kids get drunk once, they'll learn that it's bad. But research has shown us, and the medical field is much more mature now and much more on top of it, and here's what we know to be true. That even drinking a little bit, even just, quote, experimenting with alcohol, starts damaging your brain. There's a part of your brain called the hippocampus, and it's way down deep. It's shaped like a seahorse. That's why they call it the hippocampus. It's Latin for seahorse. And that little part of your brain is where your memory sits. And they've done research and found that for someone who drinks, a teenager that drinks, that part of the brain is significantly smaller, sometimes 15% smaller than those who stay sober. That means that the part of your brain that helps you remember stuff, like, I don't know, how to solve an algebra equation, things like what you need to pass your history exam, that part of your brain is smaller and it doesn't work as well. So you're not going to do as well in school. If you get lousy grades in school, are you going to be as lucky to get to go to college? No, you're not likely going to go to college if you're a lousy student. Here's something even more striking, and I only learned this in the last year, and I've been doing this for 30 years. If you get drunk, it takes your brain 30 days to recover. 30 days to recover from one night of drinking. And during that 30 days, your ability to think abstractly is significantly reduced. So we got our football team over here, and your coach teaches you some fabulous play, and he teaches you that today. All right? And then you go get drunk this weekend. And next week, you're supposed to remember what that play is. And you can't reach back in your memory and take what he taught you this week and apply it next week because you've damaged your brain. And you think, oh, well, if I get drunk on Saturday night, that's not going to impact me next Friday for the football game. But it does. It takes a month for your brain to recover from one single night of drunkenness. That's huge. I had this conversation with an adult man here in Casa Grande one time, and he was saying, oh, it's no big deal that I drink. I only drink on weekends. And I said, how long have you worked for the company you work for? And he said, 15 years. I said, so have you got a lot of raises and promotions? He said, no. He didn't get a lot of raises and promotions because his brain was never healed enough to get smarter about the job and be a better employee so he could get promotions. He was still the grunt he was when he started 15 years before. But he didn't figure that his Friday night drinking or his Saturday night drinking was making a difference. The other statistic that I think was important that was mentioned on the video is that if you start drinking before you're 15, you are 4 times more likely to become an alcoholic. Now that doesn't mean that if you start drinking at 15, you'll be an alcoholic by the time you're 16. You might. But you may not become an alcoholic till you're 22 or you're 25. But if you just wait, and that's what I'm asking you to do. If you're a student, I'm asking you just to wait, man. So let me ask you this question. How old are you before your brain stops growing? Does anybody know? Say it again. You were close. Got 22? 25. Exactly. You're 25 before your brain stops growing. So if you introduce alcohol into that growing brain, it damages it much more than if an older person drinks, because you're still growing. So we would like you to at least wait until you're 21, just to save your brain. Plus all those other things the video talked about making good decisions. That front part of your brain is not through growing, and that's the part that tells you what to do and what not to do. It's the part that gives you good decision making. That's the first part of your brain that goes to sleep when you drink. So that's why you do dumb stuff when you're drinking, because that part of your brain gets affected quickly. And heck, it's not even through growing yet. So the message that I want to give you is this. Don't take my word for it. You have at your fingertips a vast amount of information about alcohol. You have the internet, you've got your health books at school. Don't go ask the guy next door that's a drunk. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you were going to go buy a new CD player or an iPad, you know there's like 4 different kinds of iPads, and then there's things that are like iPads that are not iPads. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, well, I'm going to get one for my birthday in July, because that's like, I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm going to have to do a lot of research between now and July. Do I want an iPad, or do I want the one that's made by BlackBerry? And do I want one that has a USB port? And do I want 3G or 4G? Right? You got to do all this research, because this thing's going to cost me a couple $100, maybe $800. Well, if I'm going to do that much research on a piece of equipment, then I need to do the same amount of research on this piece of equipment called my brain. So before you make the decision whether you're going to drink the first time or the next time, do your research. Get on the internet. Find out what alcohol really does to your brain. Find out if it's a health risk or not. At least spend the time to do the research and make an informed decision, because it really is, as the mayor said, all about the decisions we make. And part of being mature is saying, I made a choice, and I'm living with the consequences. Well, make a good choice and make an informed choice. In the 30 years I've been doing this, I've learned that underage drinking was not the best choice for me. I'm 54. I know that's really old. I'm 54. I've never had a drink. So I'm here to tell you that you can get through life without ever taking a drink. That isn't the choice that everyone makes, and that's okay. But think about it long and hard before you make that choice, and think about the risk that you're taking. Okay, I think I've said my piece, Bill. 9 minutes, 12 seconds. Oh, man. Da-da-da-da.
Good.
I didn't know we were being timed, so I'm going to try to get away with 5 minutes. First of all, I'm honored to be a part of this panel. Thank you very much, and I'm honored to speak to all of you. And if I block you too much, just, well, the judge will push me, I know she will. So I'm like any other police officer. I'm very structured. I'm a type A personality. I like to be in control of everything I do and everything around me. That's true, you know that about me, and so is Cindy. She might as well be a police officer. But I can't sit still either, so I hope you don't mind me standing up. And I do have something, cops, we have to have a report in our hand, so I actually want to read something to you. I'll try to speak about it mostly, but before I do, I want to tell you, a few weeks ago, we spoke, Cindy and I and Bill and I, and we spoke about our approach, or my approach from the police department's point of view when it comes to underage drinking in our community. And I automatically thought, I'm going to hammer home a message to the parents in this room. And not just parents, but people that enable these parties, these house parties that we deal with on the streets all the time. But as I sat here and as I looked at you coming in the room, I noticed that a large portion of you are not parents or adults. I hope most of you aren't parents yet, but I know you're not adults yet. That's a whole different topic. We'll discuss that at another town hall. So I kind of changed my approach here. I'm still going to give you a very good example because some of you in this room are parents and adults and leaders in our community, but I'm going to change my approach a little bit. I want you to know, especially, not that I can't relate to, is it the SAD chapter that we have here? Or, yep. So I was part of groups when I was in school also. I won't tell you how old I am. I'm not that brave. But this is 21 years in law enforcement for me, so that kind of gives you an idea. But high school football, I got really lucky. I went to college on a scholarship. I played college football. And I remember, we didn't have the show then, but have you guys seen the show Friday Night Lights? Yeah, it went off the air like last year or 2 years ago. What a great show, right? Well, I lived in Texas, and I played Texas football, which is the ruling football, I think. Anyways, those parties that they showed on that television show, those are real. That's really how it is. Big, massive parties with kegs of beer and no adult supervision. And sometimes there were adults there, but they weren't really supervising. And fortunately, I did make some bad decisions, but none that damaged me. And I made a lot of good decisions. But I remember I graduated from high school, and on a Friday afternoon, and a week later, we attended a funeral of one of our teammates that died in a drunk driving accident. And I was sitting there thinking about that as you all came in, the football players. And not that some of you aren't in the same situation just because you aren't playing football, but what I want to get to you is that even though you're not adults and leaders in the community yet, most of you, you have the potential to be. I was just some scrub 150-pound football player when I was a sophomore in high school. And yes, I did get lucky and go to college and play football there. I got a little bit bigger, of course. I had a good coach, several good coaches. But, you know, without ringing my own bell here, I think I'm a leader in the community now. I became a leader. So you have the potential, sitting there as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, or maybe younger than that, to be a leader in our community. And you have the potential to host a party where there's underage drinking going on. So the same message that I'm about to tell these adults and the parents in this room, I want you to take seriously also, because not only are we sending a message to you about making the proper decisions about drinking at your age, but about enabling drinking when you get older. Okay? So we have, and we'll speak more about it, we have an ordinance in our city. It's a social host unruly gathering ordinance. And what brought about this ordinance is that, first of all, other cities have been using it, and we've kind of kicked it around for a few years. But a few years ago, we had an incident take place here in Casa Grande, and I'm going to read you, not verbatim the report, but I kind of summarize it for you. I want to show you, this is legitimate, this is a real report. I want to show you a realistic house party. If you've ever been to one of these, I feel bad for you. This is what really goes on, and if you're a parent in this room, this is what really goes on at these parties, okay? A few years ago, we received a 911 call from a citizen reporting loud music coming from a party in the 1100 block of East Avila here in Casa Grande. It was around midnight on a Saturday night. Our officers responded and observed numerous juveniles hanging out in the front yard and in the carport of the house. There was loud music, lots of cars parked on the street. Apparently there was a party going on. We showed up, and someone yelled, "Oh no, the cops are here." And like roaches. People took off running in every direction. Okay. We only had a handful of officers, so we were only able to apprehend a few of the runners. They were all underage, the ones we caught, and they had all been drinking alcohol at that house. We knocked on the door, no one answered. We could hear many people inside, and we could see through the windows that they were juveniles, boys and girls, and that they were drinking alcohol. We could see this through the door and through the windows. They wouldn't open the door. This refusal to open the door lasted another 15 or 20 minutes before the duty sergeant posted a few officers as a perimeter around the house and returned to the station to write a search warrant to force entry into the house if necessary. Judge Ferguson signed that search warrant for us. I know she remembers this incident. By that time, it was probably 1 or 2 in the morning, and she signed that search warrant for that sergeant. During his absence, another 20 to 30 juveniles ran away from the house. Once again, we only caught a few. Once again, they had been drinking alcohol, each of the ones we caught. Some of them even said that there were drugs being used in the house and that there was at least 50 more juveniles inside of the house. And by the way, that some of them were using drugs in the house. Due to the number of people in the house, the number of police officers on scene, and the unknown potential for danger, the sergeant called the Pinal County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Border Patrol for assistance. A lot of people in the house. We didn't know what was going on. We needed some backup. Now that enough law enforcement was finally on scene, and a judge was involved, clearly, and several sets of parents had finally arrived to take custody or to ask where their kids were, the front door opened and everyone filed out willingly, like magic. Oh, okay, we're coming out now. This is hours later. A canine was sent in to clear the house after the last person came out, and 1 juvenile was found in a back bedroom. We thought asleep, but unconscious, suffering from alcohol poisoning and requiring medical attention. During the sweep of the house, officers found usable amounts of marijuana in every room of the house. This is what's really going on at these parties. Okay? So there was marijuana, drug paraphernalia like pipes to smoke it out of, in every room of the house. We found 1 empty beer keg and 1 that was about half empty. We found many, many liquor bottles, not beer bottles, but liquor bottles, completely empty or close to empty. Oh, and we also found 4 handguns hidden around the house. I don't mean like hidden in the closet in a holster. They were thrown to be hidden. 4 handguns in this house. This is the party that your kids are at. Okay. None of those handguns were claimed as by any of the people that lived there at the house. By the way, the people that lived there were home, the adults. We arrested, cited, and released 10 individuals for contributing to the delinquency of a minor, 10 of them. 2 of them, the party hosts, were also charged with possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Numerous other juveniles were cited for consumption of alcohol and released to their parents or guardians right there on the scene. So after this incident, pretty big incident for our city, our chief of police, Robert Huddleston, decided we should send out a press release, but not just to the newspaper, to the community. And I'm going to read it to you. Part of it was kind of a summary of what happened. I'm going to read the last part of it for you. And the reason I chose to read you what he wrote a few years ago is because it still stands true today. This is our stance on underage drinking in our community. These illegal events, which are intended to induce minors to consume alcohol and experiment with drugs, will not be tolerated in our city. It is the objective of our department to ensure the safety of our youth and to promote a safe quality of life for our residents and visitors. We encourage the public to report suspected establishments that are either serving alcohol to minors or creating an unhealthy environment in our community. With public interaction, the police can take action and find a remedy to a problem before it escalates. He went on to say a homeowner or lessee who rents a house who allows an illegal house party at their home takes a serious risk. And now I'm speaking to you as the adult that's having the house party, even if you're a parent and thinks it's okay. The mere presence of a minor inside of a home consuming alcohol could cause every adult in the home who allowed the activity to continue without intervention to be susceptible to arrest for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Furthermore, if an impaired minor leaves that residence and becomes a victim of a crime or becomes involved in a vehicle collision and is injured or killed, the party organizer could be held criminally liable for a felony offense. It is not our intent to stop normal gatherings which do not incorporate criminal activity. Our goal is the preservation of life and to protect our children from the negative influences of alcohol and drug use and abuse. That's from the mouth of my chief, and it stands true today. So this is what's really happening at the parties that your daughter or your son says that they're going to go to. And even if they don't use drugs or alcohol, even if they don't experiment at that party, that's what's going on there. Multiple bags of marijuana, drug paraphernalia, liquor, kegs, and handguns. That's the reality of a house party these days. Thank you.
How young was the youngest person there?
Thomas. Judge?
Cindy, sorry, Judge. Cindy asked me to tell you the youngest person there, the youngest person I could find on record was 13. 13 years old.
13-year-old girl.
Yep.
An adult man.
Yeah, they arrest them and I get to see them. And when I get to see them, my fine for one sip of alcohol is $297. I can go as high as $2,500 plus 84%, which means you could end up paying me over $5,000 for one sip of alcohol. Cindy and I, when I first started with the Alliance, she came up with a program for alcohol to minors. It's a diversion program, which I allow the people to go to one time and one time only. You get to talk to a counselor. It doesn't cost anybody anything. You get to talk to a counselor, and if you do it and you're good, then it gets dismissed. We've had kids go to these classes, go outside on the break and start smoking marijuana and start drinking. That doesn't last. They get to come back and see me. And what will happen, Jeannie Juarez here in the front is my court administrator. What happens is we take your driving privileges away from you. And if you're a 16-year-old boy, you really don't want to lose that because you lose your girlfriend, right? Yeah. I've sent kids out to the sewer plant to work around the sewer because that's where they need to be. My boys, when they were growing up, they drank. The thing was, call me, I'll pick you up. If they didn't call me, then I reported my car stolen. Find my kid. They won't look for you for 24 hours, but they'll look for my car. So I had a really bad reputation as being a bad mother, but I knew where my kids were at most of the time. They always called me. But you know, when you're growing up, and you kids don't realize, you get these tickets. This is a class 1 misdemeanor. It goes on your criminal history. It stays there forever. If you're 18, it doesn't matter anymore. When you turn 18, it doesn't disappear anymore. 2 years ago, it changed, and it's on their record forever, unless they've gone in and signed to get it removed. Right, Donna? Yep. So when you come out of being 17, you turn into 18, now you're an adult, you're supposed to be. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't get dismissed. A lot of them come in and say, well, when I turn 18, it's going to go away. No, it doesn't. It stays. And if they come in, the diversion program we're using right now, the alcohol diversion program, has been working really good. What I get upset about is the parents bring them in. The parents could care less whether you're out drinking. They get mad at us because they had to come to court. I will not see a juvenile without a parent there. And the parents get upset because they have to bring their kid to court. Same thing with a curfew. The mall out there asks for the kids to be checked if they're, not out there running around late at night and nobody's around. The parents take them out there. I don't care if they're 8 years old up to 17, they take them out there and drop them, then they'll go back and pick them up. But the laws in the state of Arizona are changing. You guys, I also handle DUIs for juveniles. You get a DUI, I don't care if it's a .08 or what it is, your license are gone for 2 years in this state because you're underage. An adult's only 90 days. A juvenile will lose their license for 2 years with motor vehicle. You don't think that just make a bit of difference in as you're growing up in your history? I have defendants coming back now trying to get everything cleared up because they were stupid when they were 17 and 18. Now they're trying to grow up and get their lives together, and that's what's happening. They got to pay us a DUI now in this state, and Deanna will tell you, some of those DUIs that walk out of my courtroom owe us $10,000 to $15,000 because you will also do the same jail time as an adult. If you have to go to jail for 30 days, you go to jail for 30 days. We make the arrangements with juvenile probation. That's where they go. Everything is the same for a juvenile as it is for an adult. The fines are the same. And I just get upset because a lot of parents don't really care. And it upsets me. But, the parents are going to have to come to court with them to find out what's going on. Anybody?
Judge, would you talk a little bit about, speak loud enough so the mic will hear it. Would you talk a little bit about when parents leave for the weekend to go to Rocky Point or whatever, and the kids are left at home and they choose to host a party while their parents are gone? Maybe a little bit about that social host law and the position they're putting their parents.
Yeah, well, we had
Hold the mic close to you, Jeff.
we had a gentleman today that came in. He's all upset. He was gone. He hired an employee down the street that worked for him. He was 18 years old. He hired him to babysit the house, babysit the dog, and while he was gone, the babysitter had a big party in this gentleman's house. Now he's got a sticker on his wall out in front that says, "No host party, drinking here by juveniles." Now he's trying to get the sticker off because his boss is coming in tomorrow. Has to go through a hearing, doesn't walk in. Says notice of unruly gathering, and is put on the wall until after the hearing. It could stay, it could be taken off. But you don't, when you guys leave town, or your parents leave town and you have a big party, you're going to get caught. People do complain when there's a lot of noise going on. Whether you know your neighbors or not, they do complain. This unruly gathering has upset a few people that have had parties. I've had 12-year-old girls coming in that the officers have cited because they were at a party. Didn't know who the party was, didn't know anybody at the party, but they heard about it. So they're at the party, and they're drunker than the people that are having the party. They don't realize they could get raped, they could get hurt really bad. They don't realize it, because you really can't trust a lot of grown men, guys. And there's a lot of women I wouldn't trust either, but right now, these kids don't even know where they're at. They don't know who's having the party, they don't know where they're at, and they could care less. And the drinking at the school, the kids have been caught. You guys know people that have been bringing the bottles that they were talking about earlier? Yeah, they're caught in the bathrooms drinking. Drunk, so drunk they can barely stand up. But they bring it there. And you need to think about it. Your criminal history, if you want to do anything in your life, don't get anything that's going to be on your record for the rest of your life, because this will be. Okay. Oh, she's going back there.
Jeannie, a mom from Gilbert.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Robinson. I'm a mom from Gilbert, Arizona. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm not here to tell you what could happen. I'm here to tell you what did happen to our family. We have two daughters, beautiful daughters, Lauren, who will be 23, and Jessica, who's 27. I can call Lauren anytime I want. She has a cell phone. She has a cell phone number. Our daughter, Jessica, she has a different kind of number. She has an ADC number. And that's for Arizona Department of Corrections. I normally do my little presentation here with two people, but you're going to kind of get the gist of things. So I'm going to kind of, I'll start, you'll understand. September 2008, about 3 o'clock in the morning, our phone rings. Mrs. Robinson, I'm calling about your daughter, Jessica. There's been an accident. She's in the emergency room, and I think you better hurry. There's been an accident. Oh my gosh, Jeff, there's been an accident. It's Jessica. Where is she? Is she okay? Is she alive? I can't tell you that, Mrs. Robinson. You need to get to the hospital. You get dressed, you go to the hospital, your mind is swirling, you don't know what's happened. Is she alive? Is she dead? We're at the hospital. Hi, we're the Robinsons. Someone called us, and our daughter's here. She's been in an accident. Is she okay? Well, she's with a police officer right now. She's been in an accident, but there's a police officer with her. That's when we knew. So you're Jessica's mom. Well, it seems your daughter was in a terrible accident, and she's the one that caused the accident. She had alcohol on her breath, and there was another driver, and he's in critical condition. And they give us the story, and I feel sick, and I just want to vomit, and you don't know what to think. And then all of a sudden, you hear a blood-curdling scream from inside the room, and they've told Jessica that the man that she has hit is dead. Well, the other driver expired, and besides DUI and reckless driving, she's going to be charged with vehicular manslaughter. I knew right then and there that my daughter was going to prison. This is really, really bad. You think, oh my gosh, this is bad. Jessica's died. Someone has died, and she's going to go to prison. And we need to find a lawyer. What do? You can't think. The rest of the weekend, you're sick. The house is silent. There's crying. We hear Jessica crying. Nobody talks. You walk around. It's Monday. You go to an attorney's office, and they said, you know what? This is bad. Jessica's going to go to prison. Well, what do? Well, first of all, it's going to cost you about $50,000 to defend her, and that's half price. Oh my gosh, I think we're going to lose our house. There goes a wedding. There goes everything. She's in school. What are we facing? Well, about 22 years is what she's facing. 22 years in prison. We don't have that kind of money, $50,000. We don't have it. We're going to lose our house, our retirement, our home. There goes the wedding that we dreamt about her having. It's going to ruin our family. Well, they can maybe offer a plea. Well, what's a plea? Well, maybe we can get it down to about 15 to 22 years. Months and months of waiting go by. You wait for the process servers. You wait. You know it's going to happen. The house is silent. You still hear her crying. Everyone's at each other's throats. And finally, you call from the attorney, and they have a new plea. Whew, thank goodness they have a plea. It's going to be 10 to 15 years in prison. That's the new plea. 10 years minimum in prison. I wanted to die. Jessica wanted to die. We all wanted to die. At home, there's sadness and sleepless nights. No one talks about it. You don't want to think about it. And finally, I said, Jessica, we need to talk. Since this accident, we haven't spoken. And you know you're going to prison, right? She said, yeah, Mom, I know I'm going to prison. It's the day of the plea. We know that when she goes in to take the plea, she signs off on it in the courtroom. As she's sitting next to us, that when she gets up to take that plea, that we will hug her, and that will probably be the last time that we hug her for quite a while, because they will take her that day. And sure enough, it's time for Jessica to get up, and she takes her plea, and the officer standing behind her with his handcuffs ready, kind of like a lion on prey. And then we heard her say the words, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. And he handcuffs her, and he puts her up in the box with the rest of the people in stripes. And we know that day that we're not going to see her or hug her for quite a few months. She goes into county jail. We get a phone call. We go to visit her. When you go to visit in county jail, you're at a table, kind of looks like a McDonald's table, and there's a wooden separation between you, and she's handcuffed to the table. You cannot touch her. You can just talk. Lots of tears and lots of sadness. 2 months in county jail. Finally, the day of sentencing, we go in for sentencing, and she comes in shackled. I'm going to start passing this around. I want you to see Jessica, because I think it makes an impact that you can see that she's normal. And a lot of people think when this happens, it's not to normal people. The day of sentencing, and she comes in, and she's shackled, and there's about 40 family members sitting there, and she's wearing black and white stripes. And the family is sitting on the other side of the courtroom next to us. He was a man, he was a father, he was a son, he was a husband. And we all get up and we say our piece, and then finally Jess, her sentence. 7 years. 7 years to the Department of Arizona Corrections. And the day that Jessica was sentenced to 7 years into prison was the day she was supposed to graduate with her radiology class from college. They walked across and took their graduation certificate that day, and she got a certificate to go to the Department of Corrections. Months go by, there's no calls and no visits, because once you go into prison, you go in, and you cannot call, you cannot write. We finally get to see her. We finally get a letter. The letter comes in the mail. It's in a handmade envelope with masking tape. She thought enough to save the masking tape from the orange jumpsuit they gave her when she went in so she could write to us. But I'm here to tell you, young people, you've heard a lot of don'ts tonight. And Jessica was over 21. And I'm not here to tell you don't drink. I'm here to beg you to don't ever drink and drive, ever. You live in the state of Arizona, and Arizona has the strictest laws of anywhere. And you hear about the .08. I'm going to tell you that if you have a sip of alcohol, even a non-alcoholic beverage, O'Doul's, if you have NyQuil, if you have a prescription drug that is even prescribed to you, but it says, do not operate machinery. If you get in an accident and you hurt someone or you kill someone, you will go to prison. You cannot get out of it. So please, don't drink and drive, ever. It has changed our family's life forever. I wish Jessica could call in here and do this panel herself, because she would say to you, it is not worth it. She had a designated driver that night. She went out with her friends. She went out about once a month. She would get up and go to school. She'd get up about 4:30 in the morning. She would go to school, and then she worked in the afternoons as a MRI technician. She had a really good job. She loved it. She would go out about once a month. She'd gone out for sushi with friends. This wasn't like she'd gone out and just sat on the back of a bumper and threw back some beers. Dressed nice, went to a sushi restaurant, had a couple drinks with her friends, a designated driver. Designated driver okayed her to go home. He said she looked fine, but she was tired. She hadn't slept in 18 hours, and on the way home, she shut her eyes for just a second. And when she opened her eyes, it was too late. Not always saying it's the alcohol that causes the accident, but if you have alcohol in your system and you have an accident, you're going down. There's no way around it. So that's our story. Like I say, I'm just a mom from Gilbert, Arizona. Never thought this would happen to our family ever in a million years. But I'm here to tell you it can happen to any family. If it can happen to our family, it can happen to your family. Please don't drink and drive.